Hello again, another short few-minute video for your edification and entertainment, hopefully. There's a statement of the sages which is found in the Mishnah. The Mishnah is the statement of basic Jewish law, and this is found in Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the fathers, sort of ethical teachings in chapter 6. The second Mishnah, it's also found in the Talmud in several places and also in the Zohar, a similar type of statement. Basically, the statement says as follows, that every day a voice, a heavenly voice comes out and makes some kind of proclamation. Usually the proclamation has to do with warning or entreating, perhaps would be a better expression, entreating creatures, in other words, created beings, to return to their source or to think about what they are achieving in terms of their study of the divine law, the study of the divine will, the study of divine wisdom, in a general sense, the Torah. So this voice goes out and proclaims this every day. The Baal Shem Tov asks an interesting question. He says, what's the purpose of this voice, this heavenly voice? If we don't hear it, and simply speaking from our own experience, we probably don't, so what's its purpose? And who could say, essentially, that they do hear it? On the other hand, if we do hear it, how come we're not aware of it? So he answers, there's several answers given, and one of the answers is that, in fact, we do hear it. Only it's not us that hear it, it's what is called the mazel of the soul, the mazal. The mazal means the outflow, the outpouring, from the word nozel, which means to pour out or to flow. It's the flow of spirituality into the deeper levels of the soul that actually hears this. And this is called, it's called mazal. And the expression is, inhu lo chazi, mazlayu chazi. This is what it says in the Talmud, that there were people together with the prophet Daniel, that they did not see what he saw. He was a prophet. He saw things the way they really are. They didn't see, but their mazal saw. In other words, there's a certain level of the soul saw and experienced. So again, the Baal Shem Tov asks, well, if this is the case, then what's the point of it? If only the deepest recesses of the soul hear it, like what's it going to affect my behavior? What's it going to affect what I'm going to do in the world? So he explains that in some way or another, a sort of a premonition or an intuition of this message does filter through. It filters through from the depths of the soul. And that filtering through is experienced in an unusual and sudden feeling of perhaps a longing to commune with God, or a feeling of sudden silence and wondering, where am I at? What am I doing these days? There's a famous story which I'm sure everybody has heard before, but I'll tell it very briefly. The story is told about the famous rabbi, the first Hasidic rabbi of the Chabad movement, the Lubavitch Chabad movement, the founder of the Chabad movement, Rabbi Shneur Zalman Liadi. So he was imprisoned by the Russian authorities on trumped-up charges that he had been conspiring against the government. Sound familiar? He'd been conspiring against the government, and he was thrown into prison, and he was subsequently let out because they discovered that none of the charges were true. In any event, while he was in prison, one of the ministers who had heard about this rabbi, this famous rabbi, wanted to find out where he, what he was all about, what he had a reputation, he was quite famous, what was he all about? And the rabbi was in prison, so he went to visit him in prison, and he went as if he was one of the prison guards. He dressed himself up. He disguised himself so he shouldn't be known, and he asked the rabbi what it's about a verse that is expressed right in the beginning part of Genesis, where after Adam has committed the sin of eating from the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, so he hears the sound of God in the Garden of Eden. In other words, he suddenly becomes aware that the presence of God is there, and he hides. So God says to him, Ayeka, where are you? So this this Russian minister asked the rabbi, what is the meaning of where are you? Surely God knew where he was. So Rabbi Shneur Zalman said to him, yes, of course God knew where he was, but this is a question that is asked to a person every day of his life. What are you up to? Where are you up to? What are you doing with yourself? How are you improving yourself? So that kind of question sometimes falls into our minds or our hearts if we feel it emotionally, perhaps. And that kind of question, where are you? Where are you up to? What have you done up until now? Where are you going? Is a question that we need to deal with. And that's the question that's really coming as an echo, so to speak, from the heavenly voice that we suddenly hear. We don't hear it with our ears, obviously. It's a sudden awakening that perhaps we're not where we ought to be, or perhaps we're not going where we ought to be going, the direction that we ought to be going. And that's the Baal Shem Tov is the meaning of this heavenly voice. Of course, it's directing us and it's moving us towards where we should be going. It's a reminder and it's a kindness to us that we are reminded from time to time that we should be seeking out the divine countenance more than we are. Okay, that was it. Have a great weekend and see you next time.